Welcome to Spiritual Talk with Christy, Godwin, and Friends, an authentic podcast where we sit and discuss all things spiritual. Computer.
Yeah, she's recording. So just say got it.
All right, so I want to make sure everyone is all set. Everyone can hear. We do have some other people probably joining off because there is a lot more people registered than is here. So I'll be letting people in and out. Okay, I'm going to, some of you don't have your camera on. I'm going to ask you to start your camera. It just makes it a lot more personable when the cameras are started.
There we go.
Here and ask. Oh, looks like Sherry does not have, maybe she's just not on. It doesn't look like she has capability. Ask to start video. All right. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I want to welcome Marie. Marie, you want to wave so everyone knows which one you are? Have y'all noticed we did not plan this, but Marie and I both showed up and read today. It was not a plan. It just happened. Great minds think alike and all. So now Marie is here to talk about an interesting story. I'm going to give a little bit of background of how I met her. And I hope y'all came with your questions because that's how these things get fun. And, you know, I know I'm here saying this is where they get fun. We're talking about a murder case, but, you know, there are curiosities about it and how you can live with someone who, yes, he was abusive, as you will hear Marie talk about, but taking it to a whole nother level. You know, how does an abusive person turn into this almost serial killer? And to live with them, and you know, I hear those stories because of what I do, I bring through a lot of dead people. And you know, the people that are alive talk about they never dreamed that their loved ones could kill or be that abusive away from them. So now how I met Marie, and I love this story because I'm always about everything happens for a reason. There's synchronicities. I will work a Saturday here and there, but I never work on Sundays. I work like this is on a Sunday, but I don't have appointments on my calendar on Sundays. And I had added one for a specific reason, which was not for Marie to book, but she did book it. And it was because I had set it up incorrectly on my website. So I was like, okay, fine, Christy, you screwed up. That's the price you're going to pay. You're going to work on Sunday. So then Marie, she messages me and she's like, oh yeah, I live in your area. I want to come to your home office. And I was like, okay, for real, I'll have to sit in meditation because I'm kind of annoyed right now. And so Marie shows up. She's just this beautiful bright light. She's in my office and just so enjoying my visit with her, but I wasn't quite sure. I was like, are you ready for me to start the reading? Because she didn't just roll like into, oh, I need a reading. And her mom had come in with her. I could feel that. Her mom and a bunch of other people, but I hadn't really tapped into who these other people were yet. You know, I just mosey my way through them. So I brought through her mom. She confirmed it was her mom. And she said, yeah, my mom committed suicide when she was 15. So when Marie was 15, her mom committed suicide. In my head, I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking this lady did not take her own life. But I had just met Marie. Now I would say it to her, but I had just met her. So I wasn't going to be like, yeah, no, she didn't. But I knew that someone else was responsible for her passing. And so later I just asked Marie, I said, why do you think your mom took her own life? And when she told me, you know, her mom had shot herself, I was like, well, you know, if you call someone like putting their hand on the trigger and pulling it for her, then okay. And then Marie said a couple of things. And I was like, wait a minute. And I started tapping into these ladies around Marie's mom because she'd come in with a lot of people. I hadn't really paid attention. I just assumed it was like aunts, you know, whoever. But then after I tapped into them, I realized that all of these ladies were all about the same age, which is unusual. When you come for a reading and you have relatives around you, they're going to be, you know, you might have a friend, you might have an aunt or a cousin that's all around your age, but then you're going to have like grandmothers and all of that. You're not going to have like 30 or 40 people who are about your own age. It just doesn't happen. So that's how I met Marie, and that's where we got started on this. Now, Marie, do you want to speak a little bit about like when you because I know that Don has now been, his name is Don Studey, which was her stepdad, has now been in the news. When did you know that he was capable of taking people's lives?
Well, probably the last fight that he had with my mom, when I actually decided that it was beyond, we had to stop this, was I was about 13. That last fight was just horrible. My mom was in the hospital for over a week. The doctors couldn't believe she survived it. And when I looked in his eyes, it was pure evil. It shook me to my core. And then when I was running from the house to get away, I still can't even remember how I got out of his grasp, because he had me by my throat up against a wall. When I was running away, I happened to look back because I could hear him coming after me. And so I was just trying to see how close he was. And he was actually stopped at the corner of the house and had a rifle pointed at me. But I just kept running.
So when, as you were, I can imagine a 13-year-old at any moment, were you expecting to feel the, the vibration of that bullet hitting you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kept running. I was like, well, it's going to be what it's going to be, but I've got to get help for my mom.
And so now you talk about, in the beginning, he was a nice guy, like when your mom, because he was your stepdad. Mm-hmm. So whenever y'all first met, he was a nice guy.
Yes.
And he would take y'all to do things. Did you not see any anger in him?
Not in the very beginning. Mm-mm. I mean, he would get frustrated with his kids as a typical parent, but nothing terrible. It was probably a good 6 months to a year in that it started really materializing. That's kind of when they moved into the house. And
what year was that?
It was either, trying to think, 79, 80? Because she passed in 84. Maybe it was 81. I think it was 81. Because in 82 is when it was really, really bad.
I forgot to tell everyone, if y'all have any questions, or if y'all want to, if y'all have something y'all want to ask, please just unmute yourself and say, hey, I have a question. There's, I was making sure there was no one in the waiting room. Now, as I'm talking to Marie, because every time I talk to Marie, of course, I like, okay, who wants to step up? I'm hearing that he had already taken many lives before your mom.
Yes. That's kind of what, as we've been down this journey and I've connected with my stepsister, Lucy, which was his youngest daughter. It's been kind of alluded to that this was happening before my mom, and then while he was with my mom. And I think it even kind of happened a little after.
Mm-hmm.
So it went on for quite some time.
And what I'm also hearing is that he felt like he was above the law.
Yes.
Like he felt like he was untouchable.
Mm-hmm. He had a lot of connections. Yes. Shit. He was dabbled in a lot of organized crime and that kind of thing.
Now, something that did come out whenever, so now if y'all, I would turn y'all so y'all could see my bulletin board over there. There's this case, Marie's case is on my bulletin board over there. So we have a lot of going on, but I can't turn that. Y'all are on my big screen, so I can't turn it. It's because something that came up at when Marie was over here and we were talking and going through, there's a different way you work a forensics case than you just work a normal psychic reading. There's a different way of doing it. And so Marie was over and we were working on it. And I had gotten that he was, now we call it human trafficking. They didn't really call it that back in that day. But, some of it, so when you're working a forensics case, sometimes you just don't have validation. So you have to really learn to trust yourself. So it's helpful if you're working a forensic case to already have some kind of mediumship experience so that you know when to trust yourself and you're really good at reading energy. because I was definitely feeling that he had, it was, okay, I'm gonna ask that question in just a second. He had like held something over the heads of the people that were in law enforcement.
Mhm.
And so when I got that feeling, I thought, what could it be? So then I just inquired with spirit again. And that's how you get information when you're working any kind of a forensics case, or you're reading someone psychically. And when I got that information, I was like, well, was he holding over the head? And some of the law enforcement, now this is psychically, it has not been proven, had been involved in some of the same organized crime that Don had been in. So when these people started disappearing and they felt like he was doing something wrong, they couldn't really investigate him without implicating themselves. Though they were not involved in the murder, they were involved in other things. And these other things is what would have been implicated.
Yep.
Someone asked, was Lucy and Gary and the other two kids full siblings, ... same mom?
That's what they all allude to. And I've always felt Lucy was not really a true sibling with all of them, but Lucy said that her dad told her that Don had told her that he was not her real dad, that it was some other guy that her mom had hooked up with. So I don't know if it's not him or if it's not her mom, but I don't think they're real siblings.
Now, is Lucy going to have a DNA test done?
Yes, she's said that she wants to have that done.
Mm-hmm.
To see if she's truly related to her half brother that she has reconnected with.
I'm sorry, I was just kind of filling into that.
Quick question, Christy and Marie. Is that half brother? Okay, like there is Gary, because I watched the podcast last night. So there's Gary, who's kind of like, I'm going to consider him like a full brother to Lucy, but he may not be.
Right.
So is his half brother like on another side?
Yeah, he actually has 10 children from all these different relationships. And the half brother evidently lives in the Lincoln area. So when she was in town in February, she ended up re-hooking up with him and getting to know him a little bit.
Okay.
So now with this half brother, if Don is her dad, then they will be half siblings, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And if he's not, they won't be.
Right. And I think that's where she wants to do the DNA to truly figure out what he told her, was that true or not.
Do you have a feeling on that?
What's really strange is I don't feel like Don or Lucy's mom are her parents. I feel like she's from that something happened with the human trafficking and these women that he was murdering or whatever he was doing, and that somehow she was whatever happened, a child was involved, and he brought her home and made Lucy was the wife's name at the time, raise her.
And I also got that because when Marie came to the house one day, so there's something, I don't know if you've ever heard of channeling. Channeling is something that's a little bit different than true blue mediumship. There can be a little bit of channeling involved in mediumship. It's a little bit different. So I had channeled her, Marie's mom, and Marie had asked if Lucy was Lucy's mom. And Marie's mom, who's in spirit, had said no, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. So I don't know, and until she does DNA, we won't know.
For sure.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. Now, I do want to, Marie came and she wanted to take this on a domestic violence campaign to help people. And so I have done, and it's funny because I'd done some research for another podcast I had done. And so already knew some of the stats on that. But something I want to bring up is that Marie had seen her stepdad choke her mom several times, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you are choked, or you know someone else is choked, you are 750% more likely to be murdered.
Wow.
Wow.
Really?
So something about the choking just ups the aggression.
Oh, makes sense.
And then there was another person that I had on a podcast that her husband, so the other person was on my podcast, her name was Lisa. We did it with Marie. And Lisa had been abused, but her husband ended up taking his own life. Lisa had also been choked at some point.
Oh,
And so, I feel like, again, it's one of those things you just can't prove, but I just feel like if it had not occurred that way and Lisa had not gotten out of it, then she herself could have been a victim. Now, Marie, did you ever see like Don with other women, or did your mom ever talk about him cheating on her or any of those things? I know you were young, you were only 13. So that's typically not a conversation you have with your 13-year-old daughter. But did you have any inklings of it?
mm-mm. No, and he could have, but I guess I don't really remember. That's what's so weird is I don't really remember being around him a whole lot because he worked during the day. And then, they would on the weekends and stuff. I think he still worked even a lot on the weekends. He wasn't around a whole lot. And then they would go to like the horse races or whatever. But when they would go, a lot of times back then, the horse races, they wouldn't let kids in. So we'd have to sit in the parking lot in the car. So him interacting with other people, I didn't get to witness or experience much.
So then they went to the horse races and you all stayed in the car.
Yeah.
Did you see how she said that? Like, oh yeah, it's just a normal everyday occurrence. Just so we're clear, that's not supposed to happen.
No. Nope. We would just take our frisbees and cards, and we had, our sandwiches that we'd make for our lunches and stuff, and we would just sit and entertain ourselves in the parking lot for hours.
Someone just put on here, I lived in a domestic relationship for 15 years, I've been choked and beat and verbally, emotionally abused, and it's horrible. It changes you at a soul level. It changes you in a way that you don't ever completely recover from. Now, I know that, the person that was on the podcast with Marie that time, her name is Lisa. Very strong personality. She was educated, an engineer, not someone you think that would have been abused. Same thing with Marie. I mean, I can tell you whenever a spirit steps up, just kind of the energy they had on earth, because I'm really good at personalities. And so the second Marie's mom stepped up. In the beginning, I would have doubted myself. Now I've seen so many ladies over there like in her same situation, except for the whole serial killer thing, not that. But your mom was so strong. Like she's a strong spirit. You can tell she was strong on earth.
She was. I mean,
And
she
how they
was
get
a
you
single
is-
mom of 4 kids.
And how they get you is the emotional manipulation.
Mhm.
And so there was something that came out in the reading because, so now how something actually it was on the podcast. It wasn't in the reading when Marie was here because I could have talked to her all day. Unfortunately, I had another appointment that day, but was that I was talking to Marie. I said, they're saying, your mom is saying that if the police had checked into her suicide,
Mhm.
it could have been proven it wasn't a suicide, that she couldn't reach the hand. She couldn't reach the trigger. And Marie said, well, how do you know that? I said, well, because your mom's a petite woman and she couldn't reach the trigger. And then Marie said, well, how do you know it was a rifle? And I said, because your mom's showing me it was a rifle. And so that was something that Marie had never told me.
Mm-mm.
And
Yep.
I didn't know, but she had been told that it had been a rifle.
Yes, we were told, but I just always wondered, how would she do it with a rifle? There was just a lot of things that didn't make sense. We were told that day they were fighting. and that she had been drinking and she was drunk and stuff. And she was just, and I was thinking, okay, I know my mom when she was drinking. And if she was as drunk as you guys are saying, she couldn't even smoke a cigarette without dropping it. So how in the world is she going to take a semi-automatic rifle, put a clip in it, put a bullet in the chamber, and do this? I mean, I don't know. And my mom, I don't remember my mom ever being around guns.
She actually, I'm hearing that she's afraid of them. She was afraid of guns. Did you know that about her?
No, but I didn't remember her ever being around them. So that's why I was like, how would she even know how to do it?
Also, what I'm hearing from her is, because she showed me, for any of you who have done anything with mediumship, I know some of you have taken some classes and worked with it. And so the symbol she showed me is a rug being picked up and things being swept under it. The police swept under the rug. Because they didn't want to have to investigate him.
Yeah.
If they investigated him, I'm hearing that other things would have come out that they didn't want to come out. And also, those people were afraid of him. Your mom is saying that there was people, not just women, but the men who he was in this organized crime with, they were afraid of him. He was like a complete loose cannon.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do with him, which I can believe because he was Jekyll and Hyde. He could be a very charismatic, nice guy, funny, kind, and then split second, you do something that just turns on his children were always on pins and needles because they didn't know if he was going to flip on them.
And what I'd also heard, like when this came through in one of the readings, is that because Marie's mom had gone back to the house for something. Mm-hmm. And so I kept asking Maria, because we were kind of walking through the timeline of the day that she died. And I said, there was something at that house that she had to go back for. And I knew it wasn't clothes. It wasn't money. I felt like it was a living being, but I knew it wasn't kids because none of her kids were currently at that house, and nor would she have left them there. And then Marie came up and said, what did you say that she probably went back for?
Her ferrets. She had 2 ferrets. She had 2 ferrets.
And it was funny when she said that, because I kept wanting to say, because to me, as a medium, sometimes it's what we call your ego. If any medium ever says, oh, I don't have an ego, they're lying. Everyone has an ego. It's a constant battle to get it out of the way. So I was thinking, what would I go back to the house for? I would go back for my dogs. That's what I'd go back for. And so I kept thinking, because I had Marie's mom in spirit. I was like, I kept wanting to say dogs, and she was stopping me. So I knew it was wrong, but she never could have gotten ferrets to me because no. I just couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine someone being that. So now, whenever I was also talking to Marie's mom, and now again in spirit, and I was asking her, why the heck would you go back? She was letting me know that those ferrets were threatened. Mm-hmm. Like he was basically, come get these ferrets or I'm going to kill them. Mm-hmm. And she knew he would have. It wasn't like it was an empty threat. He would have done it viciously, and he would have.
I would have dropped him on her doorstep to show her what he did.
That's, what actually dropped in. It's funny you said that, Marie, because what dropped in was, and I can't remember the name of the movie. Do y'all remember that movie where somebody was being stalked and they left their dead animal in their house in a pot or something? Y'all remember that movie? It was 100 years ago. That's what she dropped in. And in my head, I'm like, he wouldn't have put it in a pot. No, he probably wouldn't have, but he would have dropped it on her doorstep.
Or left it in her car or something.
Something to let her know that they died viciously. Fatal attraction. Thanks, Billy Joe.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I knew it was something like that. Now, then we fast forward to, and your poor stepsister.
Yes.
Now, she had been reporting that women were disappearing for decades. Years
and years, yes. She went to priests, she went to nuns, she went to teachers, she went to neighbors, anybody that she could think of to go to, and nobody would believe her because when she went to the priests and the nuns, they, of course, why they went to him and said, this is what your daughter's saying. And of course, he's going to spin it that she's seeing things. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just a kid with a wild imagination. So they made her go see a psychiatrist. Other teachers and stuff, the same thing. They always went back to the parent that she's accusing. It's like, why would you go to the parent? Because they're not going.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So Marla just asked a question. She said she was trying to missed all of this in the news. So I'm trying to catch up. Did Marie come to see you if she had been killed or if she wanted to connect to her mom? Marie, now, I had talked earlier about how Marie had come on this Sunday. It was this weird thing. And I knew I needed to see Marie because just the way Spirit had arranged it. And her mom came through. But why did you come to me? I never even asked you that question. Why did you make an appointment with me originally?
It was because we found out about this like in late October, early November. I don't remember the exact time frame is when it started hitting. And I, was trying to ignore it, hoping it would go away. And it just didn't. And my mom just kept coming to me with different messages and different signs. Just wouldn't leave me alone. And so I kept trying to tap into it. Could this be true? Could it not be true? I mean, and I just kept getting such conflicting messages. And I thought, I'm just too close to it. I need to go get external help.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been to like I've met 3 or 4 different mediums and stuff. And I don't know why. I just came to you. Your name, your face always kept being the one that kept coming forefront. That you were just the best fit. So that's why I came to you.
Aw, I'm glad you did. I will say that Spirit always arranges it. I had a reading, gosh, I don't remember, it was the last couple of days. It must have been Friday. And this lady, I brought up a spirit and she was having a hard time claiming the spirit. And then all of a sudden she said, that's my dad. And so I looked at her and I said, okay, so it was her dad. And she didn't claim him for a while. I said, so which part of this information didn't fit your dad? She says, no, it all fit him. Okay, so let's back up a minute. Why did it just take you so long to claim him? I was just making sure as a medium, I'm always learning. I wanted to see if I had done something wrong because, the goal is to always get better. And she said that she had been to another medium and that medium couldn't bring her dad through. And so she said that her dad was like stuck or something. So instantly I'm just ticked off. And I normally don't get ticked off because I'm like, I don't want to argue with people. So I usually say, like, okay, well, that's really not my belief system, whatever. But her dad was making me feel angry about it. And I said, your dad is saying that he was at that other medium and she was not picking him up. And I usually don't call other mediums out also, but her dad was just being very adamant. I said something had happened in that medium's life and she should not have been reading. And she didn't have the guts to say, I can't do this. Something's going on in my life. That medium had just lost her son.
Oh, wow. That's big.
So, I tell that story because she had just been through TikTok and came across me. Just came across me. She didn't just come across me. Her dad threw me in front of her, kind of like whoever Marie Spirits was throwing me in front of her. I just love it when spirits do that. They're great like that. If they could just leave me memos too, that would also be excellent. Memos, sticky notes. I'd appreciate that. Okay. So now Marla also asked, who were these women? And women wanted to come up here. This one. Have you been able to pick up on anything about the motivation for killing her? Rage to keep her quiet because she was going to the authorities. When I tapped into Marie's mom, the feeling I got was just control. He was pissed off because she was leaving him. And how dare her? How dare her have the nerve to leave him? And I had Marie actually asked me this question that one of her cousins had. Did her mom know about some of the killings? I have gotten very strongly, and I'm getting it again today from her mom, that she did have a very good inkling, but she never would have said anything. because she was trying to protect her family. And not just her kids. For whatever reason, it was more important, not more important to Marie's mom to protect her mom and dad, but her kids already had protection. And when I asked what kind of protection that was, like Marie and her siblings, it was your dad. Like your dad would have.
Oh yeah.
So Don knew that he couldn't touch Marie and her siblings because Marie's dad would have come after him. And it would have been all
And
over.
it had come through in one of our sessions that my dad actually knew Don, and I don't think that they realized, or he realized how bad Don was. He just knew he wasn't a good guy. They had met before my mom was even with Don in like the bar, because Don lived in Omaha for a while. So that's just kind of how they weren't really friends or anything. They were just associates from the bar.
Mm-hmm.
But he knew that Don really wasn't a good guy.
And so I feel like your mom was really just trying to protect her parents. Like she wouldn't have said anything because he would have threatened her parents.
And it's kind of sad because, with my grandfather being a fire chief, he had connections too.
He did, but when I talk to your mom, she's just she talks about, which I'm sure if anyone of you have been in a manipulative relationship, it doesn't start off at that point that Marie's talking about.
Yeah.
It starts off with little things. And then you were just so mind controlled and manipulated to the point where, I'm surprised your mom actually had the wherewithal to leave him, to try to leave him.
Yes.
And it also came through in one of the readings that your mom knew that she didn't know, but she kind of knew that he was going to kill her. And you said you saw that in her eyes the last time you saw her.
Oh yeah. The last time I saw her was probably about 2-3 weeks before she passed, and she just looked broken. She just looked defeated. Scared.
I was going to say defeated is the look that, or the feeling she's giving me right now, is I just feel defeated.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I asked her, so, because there, the more questions come up, I was like, why did you go back for those ferrets? And she made me feel angry.
Oh,
so, she went back that day because she was just so angry over the fact that he was going to hurt those ferrets.
Yeah. And she was probably interrupted when she was leaving, that she couldn't get them out when she was leaving originally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, someone asked, who were these people / women that came up missing? How could there have been so many people missing and not investigated? It came through in one of the readings, and then Marie confirmed it, that these were mostly, let me admit someone. These were ladies who were runaways, prostitutes. Unfortunately, if you go to any city, you looked at the amount of missing people in the United States, there are tens of thousands.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't, so a lot of times they don't realize they're missing until they've been gone so long.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know where to start looking.
Right.
Now, something that interesting did come up is in the first reading here, a young gal stepped up. So with Marie's mom, a younger gal stepped up. And so I asked Marie, I said, did your stepdad have a type? Because for this one girl to be stepping up who was kind of singled out, she looked younger than the rest. She was a young blonde. And Marie said that Lucy mentioned that some guys showed up at the house with a young lady in their trunk.
It was in one of the news stories.
And then shortly thereafter, I said something about, there's a couple of men over there. And Marie said, yes. Lucy has said there's a couple of men that he killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, cannot verify it. What it felt like is that, or the information that was coming to me was that Don was super, super annoyed over the fact that this young girl who they killed was not he was afraid she was going to show attention,
Yeah.
or bring attention. For whatever reason, she did not fit the prototype of the other ones that were druggies or prostitutes that he felt like people weren't going to look for. Somebody was going to be looking for this girl. Look at the puppy. And so he was really ticked off, and he was afraid that her dying was going to lead to him. So then he killed the people that were responsible for her passing, just killing everybody. Now, something else
Lucy said that was usually about 5 or 6 a year over however long this went on. So that's kind of where he was calculated in how he did it also. 5 or 6 here and there, people aren't going to see it. You know what I mean? If he was doing like 20 or 30, it probably would have been noticed a little bit more, but he was very calculated in how he did it.
And something else that I found shocking is because, you know, once the story started unfolding in my office, and then I tapped into these ladies in spirit around her mom, I was like, I couldn't even count them. I mean, I'm sure if I hadn't lined them up and taken time, I might could have, but there was like a huge group of them. And I was like, how many did he was supposedly kill? Because there was so many with Marie's mom. And she said, how many did they say? About 60, between 60 and 70?
They said like between 50 and 70 is what the one news article said.
Okay.
Which
And the
would make
number that
sense.
keeps coming up every time I tap into Marie's mom is 63. Now, also something that came up, and, you know, as a medium, I see so much. Do I cry in my readings every once in a while, but usually it's over, like, I just have such hearts for moms or someone who has lost a baby, you know. And like Marie, I was at a group event yesterday, and did you see most get choked up, Marie?
Yes. I was surprised you held it together because there was 4 or 5 of us all bawling.
Yes. Well, this lady I don't usually bring through babies unless they're with someone. But this little boy in spirit stepped up, and he was a baby. And I was getting this W name, and I knew that he had been on earth for just a tiny, tiny bit. Didn't, like, you know, he didn't leave the hospital or anything. And this lady instantly took him. And what had she named him? I don't remember now.
Well, Wyatt was the second option. Was it William?
Walker.
Walker.
What was it, Dina?
Walker.
Walker.
And then on top of that, that little boy had a twin sister who was also in spirit.
Oh, wow.
So now those situations make me cry. You know, these people who lose their twins. And I did kind of like had to take some deep breaths and try to pull myself together. But when I see even at the horrific deaths like this, for whatever reason, I can just really compartmentalize and it doesn't bother me. But I got choked up in the office whenever Marie was here that first time because of the brutality in which he killed these women. So now all deaths are terrible and unnecessary, but they were brutal. And there was torture involved. And I even said something to Maria. So one lady is showing me, like, she was showing me cigarette burns all up and down her arm. Had you ever seen him do that to people before?
No, but I just felt like with my mom always hid like her arms and stuff a lot towards like the end. And she would even like at home and stuff, she always had like a long sleeve like robe on or something. She just never wore like short. She was always wearing long sleeve everything. And I always thought it was kind of weird. But they both smoked and stuff. And I just always felt like, was he burning her? Was he pinching her? Was he cutting her? Was she hiding more than what we could see?
I think
He
so.
was. And also that came through in the reading where she was showing me that he would like pinch her in public and like leave bruises. Just kind of as that mental torture of wait till we get home.
Mhm.
So someone says, any feeling on the timeline for resolution in the investigation? And do you see what the results will be?
They have located the well. They're just trying to get access to the property to start the excavation. but I don't know what the timeline will be. And if the negotiations to get on the property will happen. I feel like they will. Because I know she's even having trouble getting access to her father's property.
Mhm.
But I just
Well,
feel like there will be resolution.
I heard that, like your mom is saying that people don't want there's still people trying to cover it up because it will hurt the family's reputation.
Yes, his sister is still alive in prison. And his
I'm
two
sorry, his
daughters,
sister is in prison.
yes,
What's she in prison for?
she tried to kill her boyfriend with a hammer.
Oh, okay. Well,
Mm.
there we go.
Oh my God.
Lovely family. All right.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so now my feeling on that is that yes, there will be lots of bodies found in there, but I don't think all the bodies are on that property.
No, they're not. See, that's the thing is there's bodies in this well. There's bodies on another trail. There's bodies on the Studey property. He didn't hide them all in one place.
Also, oh yeah. Okay, I was about to say your mom is showing me a wooded area, like, and it reminds me of, I grew up in Louisiana. It reminds me of like a wooded Louisiana woods.
Mhm.
But that was here in Omaha we were talking about, right?
Yeah. When you channeled mom, she says she made reference that there were 3 women that are actually in the Omaha area, not over in the Iowa area.
Very good. All right. Someone says when she watched the 3 podcast videos last night, reminding her of BTK in Kansas City, hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
Exactly. And you know what? I think what is brilliant, and your mom just said this, and I know this is jacked up brilliant, but it was still brilliant of Don, that he was so calculated that he purposely got the police involved. Like, I just thought it was one of these things that kind of rolled into a coincidental thing, but no, he calculatedly got the police involved in his, organized crime so that he would have something over them. He loved that. He really loved the ability to be able to know that he was in control. And okay. Do you think Don's son's Gary, who committed suicide, knew what happened and could not mentally live with it anymore? I have a feeling on that. Do you have a feeling on that?
I do feel like a lot of it was weighing on him. I know that he was in a very long marriage and he had quite a few children, and his wife had left him. But I'm not sure why his wife had left him. I don't know if he just couldn't handle it and he was mistreating her, or if she was I'm not sure what that dynamic is, but I do know that he was a very conflicted person. And he was kind of, I don't know, he wasn't very nice to me. So he always gave me the creeps. If I could avoid him, I did.
I get the feeling that he was, of course, mentally deranged because, how could you not be growing up with Don as a dad? And like he felt so beat down. Can you imagine being a child at his mercy?
Mm-hmm.
Also, was the brother who committed suicide, was he ever accused of child porn or child molestation?
He molested and assaulted me on more than one occasion, and I had went to my sister with it, my older sister, and then my older sister talked to my mom about it, and that I believe is some of the cause of one of the fights. I'm not sure if it's the last fight, because I feel like he was ticked off at me and he was ticked off at my mom for telling on him,
Mm-hmm.
and that he did something to make Don very, very mad at my mom, and he told a lie about her.
Gotcha. Because a gentleman stepped up as you were talking. Of course, I know that I did not give evidential information to prove who it was. I just got the feeling off of him of, oh, but I also think that that was an ongoing issue for him,
Yes, it was.
like the child issue.
Mhm.
And I think that was part of the reason why his wife left him.
Could be.
Okay, isn't law enforcement helping warrant? You know, the thing with this search is it's in small town Iowa, and stuff like this is going to be expensive. And I know people like to say, well, it doesn't matter the cost. We have to bring these people. But if you are someone who is in charge of a law enforcement budget or a small town budget, how are you going to justify spending millions of dollars on this search when you have children who are alive in that same county or in that city who could benefit so much more? So they did get the FBI involved, which is helpful.
Mhm.
And then they got someone to privately fund it, correct?
Yes, they have a private. They have some private funding that's available now.
Now, when it comes to the warrant issue, I cannot speak intelligently about that. Do you know anything about that, Marie, how the warrant issue works, if why they haven't gotten a warrant? Did they not have enough evidence to get a warrant?
I think that they actually have to find a bone, and they would have to dig. And I'm kind of surprised when they were here in February, where the gentleman had given them access to the property to even locate the well. I, at that point in time, would have had a shovel with me and I would have been digging,
Yes.
because they didn't need to go and dig the well. There's shallow graves all over, and she knows where they are. It's like, why didn't you go dig for a shallow grave?
So does she know exactly where the graves are?
Pretty, she was within a foot of finding the well. So I think that she would be pretty accurate to know
Okay.
where some of the graves are.
I know this is going to sound a little bit morbid, but I have been on like where I've gotten information before on cases and helped look for a body. It's very hard to find a body in a field,
Mhm.
especially if it's a field that's been plowed before and it's already uneven.
Mhm.
And it's been time. It's very hard to find. You know, you have to dig in the exact right spot and you have to know how far to dig down. It's very difficult to find a body in a field, much more difficult than I thought. Okay, how did Lucy know all these details? Did she see him move the bodies? Did she have to help with things?
She didn't really help with things. I think what it was is that she did actually witness him killing a couple of them. So, and then he would always say something about gotta go to the well or something like that. So I think that it's just, she knew what was happening, and she, being Lucy, she just was very aware and alert, and she watched everything that he did. And I don't think he realized how much she was watching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, she, and this came up before and Marie had confirmed, because one time she was talking about Lucy, I said, Lucy, several times he almost killed Lucy. But then he didn't, because it's one thing to have random people disappearing, but then for your child to have been telling that you are killing people and then all of a sudden they disappear, that would just been too much.
Yes.
So that's
But
really,
I feel like the thing is, and I don't know why I feel this, and I felt it ever since the, in December, I think it was, when they went and claimed they did, they looked for the bodies for 2 days. I feel like they found something, but I think that it's an oh crap moment. She's telling the truth, and now how do we get out of this? Because it's egg on their face. They've been being told for years and years and years, and they could have probably stopped some of the murder.
mm-hmm.
So, you know, and if it's you know, for them to find something, think about it. If it's at the level she is saying it is, it's going to be massive.
I just got chills when you said that. Who else got chills? Yeah, a couple other people. That spirit saying, yep, it's going to be massive. I knew that other people had gotten those chills too. So, you know, bless Lucy's heart. I'm surprised this lady didn't go crazy for all these years.
She's had her trials, and you can see that some days she's a little unstable because I think she's just been fighting and fighting and fighting for so long. But she showed us when we hooked up with her again, and I felt so bad. It's like, you know, that we didn't know all this was happening to this poor girl. She used to dig her fingernails in her arm when something would happen, and she would tell herself, remember, 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 remember. And so when you look at her arms, you can see like the scars. And that's how, you know, a lot of people are like, well, how can she remember all this? She trained herself to remember it.
That's brilliant.
Yes. So that's where I don't think they realize she trained herself to remember everything, every detail, on purpose, because she just knew she was going to take him down. She just didn't. So she didn't succeed while he was alive.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. This is absolutely something that cannot be proven, but what just came through from spirit, and we'll see how I just feel like he took, like, I don't feel like, of course, that Lucy's mom is Lucy, and that he actually killed her mom.
Which could be.
Okay.
It's almost like that he didn't realize there was a baby present or something when he was doing whatever he was doing. And he's like, oh my God, what do I do with this child? And I think it was just out of his scope. I think it would have been too hard for him to take the life of a child. So he took it home.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to believe he had any like gumption at all. And that's really the only explanation. Someone asked, have you tried tapping into Dawn? Any success? Now, I haven't. Now, only because I would have to have, I don't know if I've ever tapped into people as evil as him. I have brought through spirits who have been murderers, pedophiles, rapists, that type of thing. You know, there's a gentleman stepping. My issue is who's going to be able to, it's with evidential mediumship, who's going to be able to say for sure that I have him? Like, is there something that Marie would know that no one else would know?
I know different markings. I know different markings on his body.
Okay, y'all want to give it a go? We'll see what we can come up with here. Okay, Marie, you ready? Do you want to do this?
You can try it.
All right. Okay, so the gentleman stepping up is, for one thing, he looks like your everyday, very handsome, not very handsome, not like, oh my goodness, but very well kept and good looking guy. And do you remember him using Old Spice or Aramis or something like that?
Yep.
Yes.
My little sister's on here.
Can you see me?
I did not know you were her little sister. I can see you.
Yes, this is
I'm
Charlotte,
sorry. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. I should have asked your permission before.
You're okay.
Okay. Are you sure you're okay with this, honey?
I am okay.
Then instantly, that's the first thing I said, give me something that I don't know that Marie would know. And he just made me smell my grandfather, who my grandfather used that Old Spice aftershave.
Yes,
Also, this gentleman is showing me, he shows me kicking a dog. Was he mean to y'all's animals? Do y'all remember him kicking y'all's dogs?
We didn't have any animals.
He had dogs.
But he had dogs, and he was cruel to them.
Yes, that's something else that he was showing me, that he was kicking dogs. He's also showing me I don't know, liking breakfast food. I don't know why that's relevant. Do y'all remember him liking breakfast food? Was there a time where, was that like a happier time for y'all? Y'all can remember your mom in the kitchen making breakfast food?
I remember going to diners and having breakfast.
And it's a very specific thing that he is showing me, which I haven't seen this since, gosh, I was a kid. But a fried egg, now when I fry eggs, I don't know if I use Pam, but this egg is fried and you can tell it's been fried in like grease and there's remnants of the, whatever the grease it was fried in on it.
We always had a huge tin coffee can of bacon grease, and that's what they always cooked in.
Okay, very good. So I think that we have a Mr. Don Studey here. Okay, so now I'm sure y'all are a little bit curious. We did not expect this to go this way, but So now when he steps up, do I feel evilness off of him? No. He's in heaven and I do not feel that. Now, what I do find interesting about him that I don't do with other spirits is whenever other spirits come to me, if I raise and look around them, I can see hundreds of others that are just observing me. I don't see that with him.
That's weird.
It is weird.
Well, when you channeled mom, I asked her, I said, do you ever communicate with Don? And she said, no, he's getting help on this side. So evidently all the choices that he had made while he was here on earth, he is getting help for on the other side.
He is showing me okay, so now you mentioned a well, because he's showing me 2 plats of land in Iowa. Is that the 2 plats that, are there 2 plats? Also, is there a lake around that anyone thought he got rid of bodies in?
There was that one lake by there.
I'm sorry, Charlotte, there was a lake where?
There is a lake at, I think it's Forney's Lake. That's as you get off the Bartlett exit to go up.
There's a couple of bodies there, but not many. It said lakes were dangerous.
Well, there's kids that swim in them.
Yeah, and we swam in it too.
Yes.
He's taking me. He's on. Okay, so I said, show me some place here in Omaha. So he's taking me on. He's taking me on 75 North. And we're just keep going. We're just going north. Like we're not, usually I exit at 80 because that's where everything is that I do is out west Omaha, but we're just continuing north and we're passing all of the, he's taking, I saw, does 75 hit 29th Street somewhere?
29th.
Billy Joe, do you know? I know you're familiar with the Omaha area.
That's where you go to Council Bluffs. That turns into 20.
I-75 turns into
north.
29. I-29.
Yeah. I-29, not 29th Street.
Okay. So what turns into I-29?
75 will.
If you keep going north?
75, Marie and Charlotte, 75 like goes up north and you go past Creighton. So you're like on 480 and then it becomes 30th.
Right.
Through Florence. That's 75.
75 is 30th Street.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
go,
75 30th Street.
And going the other way, it goes through Missouri Valley and stuff. It doesn't hit I-29 until you get out of Missouri Valley even.
Okay, so then it's 30th Street, not 29th Street.
Okay. Because I was thinking maybe 29 meant I-29, but
yeah, that's
what he was showing me is we were on because it's called
because 75 goes into Fort Calhoun too, and then goes to Blair. That's 75 also.
So he had me going on 75, and then all of a sudden I saw like a green street sign that I thought had 29 on it. But y'all said there's 30th. So I'm not sure what is in that area, but there is some issues in that area. Is there any parks in that area? Like wooded areas?
There's Humboldt Park is up there and
Oh.
Dodge Park and
then there's that Venus Hill up.
Venless
off of third-
Park
Mhm.
on 31st and State.
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever someone said Venice Park, I just got a rush. I've never heard of that, but when you said Venice Park, I got a rush.
Yeah, that's pretty common in the North Omaha area with wedding vineyards and stuff like that. It used to be. It's kind of ran down now, but it was a big deal back in the day. Along with Dodge Park and Hummel Park.
It's very wooded, and there's like a creek and stuff that runs through it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's over by your house, Marie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now when I asked him, like now I was just curious. I know this sounds demented, but I'm just going to tell you what I just asked him and what he said, because, you know, no one on this could fathom what he just said. Because I said, did it not hurt your heart? You know, most people cannot physically inflict pain on someone and not feel some kind of like, now what I did find from someone who was in spirit who had murdered people is they just had no feelings at all. Like, it was just like picking a piece of gum up off the floor. They had no feelings about it, probably less because that's kind of gross, but you know, they had less feelings about it than that. He is showing me actually finding pleasure in it.
I always,
Yeah, he did.
I always, I guess that's why when, as the beatings progressed and got worse and worse, you could just, it was almost like you got a high off of it.
Yes,
I don't know, it was
yes,
just
that's
weird.
what he's making me feel. That's exactly what he made me feel. Like the pleasure, the high. He made me feel giddy.
And that's kind of where the one beating that was in the kitchen, I just, that one scared me too, because I'm like, will you ever know when to stop?
Did he ever beat his children with belt buckles?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
He just showed me that.
Oh, yes.
He liked actually, that was always the thing. Anytime he reached for the belt, everybody ran, because he didn't just use the belt, he always used the buckle.
What else you got for me, Nan? You know, he was like, I said, are you gonna apologize? And he said, would that do any good? It would not.
No.
Well, is his apology authentic?
What he is showing me that instead he shows me doing like opening up energy, like opening up the energy. So don't be afraid when you ladies, you know, Charlotte or Marie, whenever if y'all want information from him, to ask him.
He's not allowed in my house.
He did this when you did that. He did this. Like, nope.
Did he come and see me last night?
He did. He was showing me he moved something. He made a noise in your house.
Yeah. Was it a humming?
He shows me. Oh, you know what he did? I'm not sure what your noise sounded like, but he, you know, when you have a door and you have the things, I was pointing, but y'all can't see, on the ground to keep the door from hitting the wall. There's that little screen. Yeah, that's the noise I'm hearing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the noise I'm hearing. Did it
Mhm.
sound like that?
Well, it kind of sounded like like somebody went, you know, it like a jingle or a,
Mm-hmm.
I can't pronounce it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do it, but you know. That's the noise he's making me hear.
And I thought it was him, but I wasn't for sure.
If you don't want him in your house, then you just say, do not ever come in my house. You're not.
Well, he tried to get in the house and I said he wasn't allowed in. But grandkids had nightmares last night and I had a weird dream about something that confirmed him.
I will say that his energy is very different than anyone else I've brought through. And I would say the biggest issue is that he's by himself. I never, ever. I was just telling someone the other day, since I've started counting readings. Oh, here's my sheet. And this was just since I started counting, I have done. When this isn't including yesterday, and I did a big group yesterday, which was probably about a total of like 20 or so, but 4,190.
Wow, that's a lot.
And that's how many readings. That's not how many spirits. I've never had one come up by themselves like this.
Interesting. Nobody wants to be around him.
Nope. He brought that on himself.
It's kind of interesting. I know it's kind of weird, people, but it is kind of interesting because I was just like, so why is it so? What he showed me. So I've always joked. And so this is Dawn's sixth sense of humor coming through a little bit. Because I always joke when people talk about, there's got to be a hell and everyone goes to hell, heaven. I always say I have brought through people that if I'd had the book and I'd been at Heaven's Gate, I'd been like, Jesus, you made a mistake. They can't come in. Nope. And then I say, but I've never read Hitler, so who knows where he is. Dawn is making reference to being in that same area. And though it is not what we consider hell, and it might just be my belief system. There is not, I think this is hell. I think we're living it right here. But he is showing me kind of being isolated, but not in a bad way. It's not like you're in solitary confinement, like you're isolated and you're never going to see people again. It's more of a healing.
Yes, I think that's where Mom referenced that he's getting help. And I do truly, there's a lot of choices that people make while they're here on this earth.
And it's a vibratory healing he's talking about. Very interesting.
Very interesting to, have it confirmed.
He's showing me a book. Okay, why is he showing me a book? He didn't keep notes on this, did he?
No, but his sister did.
Yep.
Oh.
and the diaries are being released.
Oh, very good. Okay. Love it when that happens. Not only is it, it's just more confirmation of who we have and what is happening.
Yeah.
He says she missed some.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
I asked him why. He said because he could.
I think, in the beginning, it probably wasn't really easy for him, but, as you do it more and more and more, I think he just flipped a switch and turned into, let's just see how far I can take this.
Someone asked, what was Dawn's upbringing like? How does someone become that evil? Now, I do have a note over there because, again, whenever you are working a forensics case, you will kind of what I call riff off of information. And so one of it is I had actually asked that. I was like, why? Why was he like this? And then just started putting information down. And I was noticing that the other day because there was a word that stuck out to me when I was talking about his mom. What was that word? Demented. That was the word. Oh. So when Marie was here at my house and we were kind of riffing on these words and going through some information, his mother, I heard, was demented.
Yeah, I didn't hear that she was very nice.
Now, there are people who I mean, go through that and worse. And this is where my personal belief system as a psychic medium comes into play, because I think that we have a tremendous amount of free will. That's the reason when you go to a psychic, energy can change. Some energy is set, but a lot of it can change. And I think anytime we are walking in a vibration that's outside of love is when we're outside of our soul plan. Like, none of us are put down here, my belief system, to be assholes. But there is free will. And it's absolutely your free will to do so.
It's your choice.
Now, Don just gave me something that I find very, he was hurting. I never had someone describe this to me. So it was his drug. Like, you know, a lot of people will self-medicate with drugs, alcohol, food, whatever it is. And it gives them that feeling, you know, the endorphins rushing, and it makes them feel alive and better. It made him feel good. And he walked around his whole life, he is saying, either feeling numb or bad. But then when he got that rush of hitting someone, and he strangled a lot of these women. He is showing me, he liked to see and he is showing me, apparently there is a moment where if you're looking in someone's eyes, you can see their soul basically leave them.
Oh.
And he loved that moment. It gave him it made him feel alive and powerful.
Wow.
Very powerful. He spent his whole life feeling not powerful. Wow.
So sick. I didn't even get to that point in life.
It started out slow. I'm actually feeling the first time he killed someone, he was letting me know, was like he's going, whoops, like it was an accident. But then he liked the feeling so much. He continued.
Was it his boss?
His who?
His boss.
His
Was
boss?
that one of the first? Yeah, was that one of his first ones?
Okay, how could you prove this to me, Dawn? What could you say?
How did you dispose of him?
Did he ever light anybody's on fire? Or put lye or something on them?
He did put lye on bodies.
He shows me a body just kind of disintegrating. Until it was bones. Can you do that?
Well,
look at Billy. Yeah.
Well, the one diary entry was he had killed his boss and put him in a barrel and covered him up with like oil or some kind of fluids.
So I wonder if that fluid looks like gas, because that was the first thing it looked like he was pouring on him was gas. And then I got in my head, I was like, that can't be gas. What would it be?
Yeah.
Could have been like diesel or oil or some kind
Or
of
acid.
He worked in a garage. Well, he worked in a garage, so he had all kinds of
acid,
stuff.
yeah.
Battery acid or some kind of like lye.
Yep.
And it's showing me like the skin just melting off of the person.
Ugh.
Is anyone else getting these lovely visuals? Are you getting the visuals, Melissa? That was his, you know, that might have been his first one, but he's showing me before that beating someone almost to death. Do you know who that was?
I know he was abusive to a lot of different women in different relationships. I don't know how bad the abuse was. And I do know that there were quite a few of them that left him. So,
How many suicides are around him? Because he's showing me 3, and I know there was your mom.
and then there was Lucy's mom, Lucy. But I was told, and see, this is what's funny is I was told by his brother why his brother would tell me things, because I was only like 12 or 13 at the time. Why would you tell this kid? I was told that there was 2 wives before my mother. One was hung and one was a gunshot. And then when my mother came up and they were telling us that she had killed herself, I thought, come on, this is number 3. Really?
Yes, he's showing me 3. He's showing me there was 3 suicides that were not suicides.
But see, I can't put my finger on the one
That's
that his
the
brother
third.
told me about. I don't know who it is.
Okay.
I
Huh,
don't
so
know
that's
what-
funny that he mentioned 3, and then you have heard, like you can only know of 2, but you had heard there was a 3rd one.
Yes. And it was from his brother.
Too much of a coincidence because those don't exist.
No, and that's kind of where I just always said it couldn't have happened.
Mm-mm.
I've got a question about, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, Marie, he is saying, and he is hesitant to give any positive messages. And I'm trying to decide, is that his hesitancy or my hesitancy to accept them? But he is talking about how proud he is of you for being so positive, trying to make good out of this.
And that's the one thing. And I know that that's why I'm my mother's daughter, because my mom liked to see the good in people. And I guess my belief is we are all on this earth to learn different lessons, and there's different choices that we make. And he didn't make good choices.
Mm-mm.
He wasn't always evil. And he did love his children to a certain, or love them however he could love them. He wasn't always nice to them. But
Right.
there was love somewhere in he was brought into this world loving. Where it ended, it ended.
And Charlotte, for you, he is saying that he's sorry. And I said, of course, he was being more specific. There are a lot of triggers that you have that you don't realize you have. Have you noticed that sometimes you'll be triggered and you're not really sure why?
Yeah.
And he wants to apologize for that because it's made you live I wouldn't say a not normal life, because what's normal,
Yeah.
but it's made you struggle a lot with feeling like you're crazy, but you're not, if that makes sense.
Is he the one that's triggering that?
No, but you have memories that you have suppressed from seeing some of the things that he did.
Okay.
Not the murders, but like just being so mean and beating his children and your mother, and just but you saw things that you just don't even remember, like you've suppressed them.
Yes.
And so those, or when I say triggers, something will happen and it will kind of pop that memory that you have, and it will kind of make you feel a little crazy.
Mm-hmm. But it's just like a second and then it goes away and I don't remember why I felt that way.
Yep.
Okay.
And he's sorry for that. Okay, Marla, you were about to say something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I grew up about, I don't know, 40 minutes east of there, 30 minutes east of there. And it would have been in around like 1985 or 86, 1984, somewhere. I always remember hearing a lot about like sacrifices and satanic worship and things like that. Are you guys getting any kind of connections in these two? Because it was in that same area that stuff was reported. Is there any connection?
What
I don't think that there's a connection I'm not feeling a connection, but I'm feeling that they like piggybacked.
Yes. that it was a way to deflect the attention from him.
Mhm.
That's exactly what I got. So now, Marla, did you ever hear of him before all of this? Did you ever hear?
So the funny thing is when I got on this, I just saw your thing from last night and was like, oh, I'll check that out. Didn't have any idea what it was about at all. Didn't even know that, Marie, that you were in Omaha or that this was a local thing. I thought you were going to be somebody completely far off. But the only thing I remember hearing was probably about 6 months or a year ago that, yeah, some, no offense, but some, crazy ladies reporting some 70 bodies in Thurman, Iowa. And I'm like, oh, please, come on. There's barely 70 people that live in Thurman. I think people would know. And I just kind of blew it off. And in the news, it all died. From what I could tell, it all died down. So I was like, yeah, it was probably just some, loose-lipped person making stories. And now come to find out, holy crap, this thing's been going on this whole time.
Yes.
And Marie, I have to say, and Charlotte both, oh my God, my heart goes out to you. And I am so impressed with how collected you guys have obviously become and ran your life. Like, I don't even know what to say, but good for you.
Yeah, it's been years of healing.
Oh yeah.
And and I do have to say, I've been blessed with many, many loving and supportive people throughout my life. That's, helped us through a lot of this. So, and we do have a pretty close-knit family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And our older sister, the three sisters, we are very close.
Yes.
And every time, Marla, I've said the same thing to Marie before, and I want to extend that to Charlotte again, how impressed I am with you ladies. And I know that y'all kind of deflect it, but it's not just about the abuse that y'all witnessed, it's the energy that y'all lived with.
Mm-hmm.
And for y'all to come out of it and have chosen a completely different path, I'm with Marla. It's amazing.
Well, my pathway wasn't the greatest, but I was strong enough to get out of it. And that's
absolutely. And I just tapping into it, kind of a feeling what you're like, you might have made some mistakes, but you were not a mean person. You never purposely were mean. You never let that living with evil affect you and turn that on other people, which is, to me, what is impressive.
Yeah.
Well, we are our mother's daughters. My mom just was not a mean person. She could be like a lioness and protect her kids. But she just always taught us to be kind, to be loving.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I asked your mom one time, why didn't you kill you? She just didn't have it as bad as he treated her and all the horrible things she knew. I was like, why didn't you just self-defense kill him? She didn't have it. She couldn't. She didn't have it in her heart. She couldn't do it.
No, it would have broke her. I mean, it would have broke her worse than what he did.
Yeah.
For her to do that. And I do truly believe that.
That's what I'm getting, that she just couldn't do it. And I will let y'all know also, because whenever when I start talking to spirit, I will tap them. So now, any of you have seen me read or talk about it, spirits come to me on the left, usually just right here. Well, Dawn is right here. So just then when I re-tapped Marie's mom, she was way over here, almost behind me. I'm telling you, I've never seen this before, how he has no spirits around him. And I don't want y'all to think that he's in solitary confinement or anything. It's more of he's in a different vibration that is healing him.
Mm-hmm. Well, for that, I mean, for him to make the choices that he made, his vibration really needs to be cleaned. And on that other side, that vibration is a totally different vibration. So it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Does anyone have any last minute questions or comments?
I have a quick one for Charlotte and Marie. And this might be a little too personal, but I watched the podcast first last night. Then I did my internet, find out what's posted there. But I saw something, and I don't know if it's true or not of what I saw, but it was a grave marker, and it was your mom and Don's grave marker. but I couldn't tell if it was a false one. You know how it's like an example, or if it's truly. And at that time, your mom had passed away, but Don had not passed away because it didn't have
Correct.
his date filled in. But is there truly, are they buried side by side?
Yes.
Yes.
He did it on
Wow.
purpose.
Wow.
Yep. We begged him to not take her to Thurman. We begged him. We said we would pay to please just bury her here in Omaha, and he refused. That was his one last, I'm going to get you guys. You know, I'm not going to, you know, that's just who he
I'm
was.
not mine. Yeah.
Someone asked, will he confirm how many victims? So I, for those of you who know how psychic mediumship work, get very nervous when I'm asked very specific questions like that because you don't want to be wrong. I'm feeling actually was at more than 63 because when I asked, remember earlier I said I was feeling 63. And so when I read that question, I just got from Don, he said, 63 sounds good.
Oh, be honest. Come
But
on
I'm
now.
feeling like it's
You
closer to
owe
like 65 or so.
What, up in Green Holler or through the whole
Through
time
the
he
whole thing, through the whole.
So there
So
could be
was
just probably like 50 women, but there's probably 15, 16 other people.
I had only seen 2 men earlier, when we have read before. But I do feel like there was actually more than 2 men.
Yeah.
There are.
Mhm.
Okay. And gosh, this hammer, like, I was like, what is he showing? He was showing me hitting someone with a hammer.
That would make sense.
Mhm.
All right.
Usually, though, he liked to kick people. So
Diary about him hitting a guy with a hammer.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Charlotte?
I think there was something in the diary. I haven't read the whole diary, but there was something where he did hit somebody over the head with a hammer.
Yeah, that's what he was showing me. But I thought y'all could tell. I'm like, I'm seeing this hammer. But, when stuff starts getting crazy like that, you think, am I making up this Hollywood drama in my head? Because, yeah, no, that's what he showed me.
I know you can't make this stuff up.
No.
Marie, was your mom's death always suspicious to you? Or
Yes,
was it just
always.
after talking with Christy? At what
No,
point did you
always.
know that it was not a suicide?
The
The
minute that they called me.
Yeah.
The minute they called me.
Yep.
And where were you living at the time?
I was living with my cousins at the time.
And you were
Because
13?
my dad wasn't, yeah. Well, no, I was 15 at the time that I got the call, but I was living with my cousins at the time because my sister was in the process of moving and getting a new house. So we, again, got disbanded and put in with different guardians because my dad was a truck driver.
Okay. And Charlotte, how old were you?
Well, I was 13.
Okay.
I was 13 when I was witnessing all the beatings and stuff because
Yeah.
the last fight that was really bad, I told my mom, I'm done. If you take him back, I'm leaving.
Mhm.
And I had been gone doing a babysitting job. And as I was driving down the road, his car was in the driveway. And I said, turn the car around. I'm not going home. And I never went back.
Wow.
Can you imagine the strength of that 13-year-old to do that?
Unbelievable.
And it was funny because when we left with nothing. We had nothing. And so just Don being Don, they delivered a bag of clothes. We each got a paper sack of clothes and they weren't even our clothes.
So someone asked, is the sister still alive that had the diaries?
Marilyn, yes, she's the one that's in prison.
Mhm.
Oh,
It was her daughter that gave the diaries to Lucy.
Yes.
So I don't even know if Marilyn realizes that Well, she probably does now, but I don't know if she realized in the beginning that her daughter had given the diaries to Lucy.
Mm-hmm. Mhm. Very good. All right. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This was very nice. I appreciate all coming and supporting Marie and Charlotte and coming with your interesting questions. This will be put on, it will be public, like you'll be able to access it if anyone wants to go back and listen to it. It'll be on YouTube under, so if you go to Christy Godwin Psychic Medium, under there's a playlist that's called podcast, it'll be there. And then also it will be dropped on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Have a great Sunday afternoon.
Thank
too.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks
Thank
for being
you.
so
Bye-bye.
open, ladies.